The 36 Lessons of Vivec by Vivec Sermon 1. He was born in the ash among the Velothi and Nonkima before the war with the northern men. Iam came first to the village of the Nechiman, and her shadow was that of Boethia, who was the prince of plots, and things unknown and known would fold themselves around her until they were like stars, or the messengers of stars. Iam took a Nechiman's wife and said, I am the face-snaked queen of the 3-in-1. In you is an image and a 7-syllable spell, Iam a seti a vec, which you will repeat to it until mystery comes. Then Iam threw the Nechiman's wife into the ocean water, where Druffs took her into castles of glass and coral. They gifted the Nechiman's wife with gills and milk fingers, changing her sex so that she might give birth to the image as an egg. There she stayed for 7 or 8 months. Then Set came to the Nechiman's wife and said, I am the clockwork king of the 3-in-1. In you is an egg of my brother's sister, who possesses invisible knowledge of words and swords, which you shall nurture until the Hortator comes. And Set then extended his hands, and multitudes of homunculi came forth, each like a glimmering rope through the water. And they raised the Nechiman's wife back to the surface world, and set her down on the shoals of Azura's coast. There she lay for 7 or 8 more months, caring for the egg knowledge by whispering to it the codes of Mephala, and the prophecies of Veloth, and even the forbidden teachings of Trinimac. 7 Daedra came to her one night, and each one gave to the egg new motions that could be achieved by certain movements of the bones. These are called the Barons of Move Like This. Then an 8th Daedroth came, and he was a demi-prince called Fanuit Hen, or the multiplier of motions known. And Fanuit Hen said, Whom do you wait for? To which the Nechiman's wife said the Hortator, Go to the land of the Indoril in 3 months' time, for that is when war comes. I return now to haunt the warriors who fell and still wonder why. But first I show you this. Then the barons and the demi-prince joined together into a pillar of fighting styles terrible to behold, and they danced before the egg and its learning image. Look, little Vec, and find the face behind the splendor of my bladed carriage, for in it is delivered the unmixed conflict path, perfect in every way. What is its number? It is said the number is the number of birds that can nest in an ancient Tibrol tree, less 3 grams of honest work, but Vivec in his later years found a better one, and so gave this secret to his people. For I have crushed a world with my left hand, he will say, but in my right hand is how it could have won against me. Love is under my will only. The ending of the words is Sivi. Sermon 2. The Nechiman's wife, who carried the egg of Vivec within her, went looking for the lands of the Indoril. Along the journey many spirits came to see her, and offer instructions to her son-daughter, the future glorious invisible warrior poet of Vardenfell Vivec. The first spirit threw his arms about her and hugged his knowledge in tight. The Nechiman's wife became soaked in the incalculable effort. The egg was delighted and did somersaults inside her, bowing to the 5 corners of the world and saying, Thus whoever performs this holy act shall be proud and mighty among the rest. The second spirit was too aloof and acted above his station so much that he was driven off by a headache spell. The third spirit, At Hatur, came down to the Nechiman's wife while she relaxed for a while under an emperor parasol. His garments were made from implications of meaning, and the egg looked at them 3 times. The first time Vivec said, it means nothing. After looking a second time, he said, there might be something there after all. Finally, giving At Hatur's garments a sidelong glance, he said, Amazing, the ability to infer significance in something devoid of detail. There is a proverb, At Hatur said, and then he left. The 4th spirit came with the 5th, for they were cousins. They could ghost touch and probed inside the egg to find its core. Some say Vivec at this point was shaped like a star with its penumbra broken off, others that it looked like a revival of vanished forms. From my side of the family, the first cousin said, I bring you a series of calamities that will bring about the end of the universe. And from my side, the second cousin said, I bring you all the primordial marriages that must happen within them, each one. At this, the egg laughed. I am given too much to bear so young. I must have been born before. And then the sixth spirit appeared, the Black Hand's Mephala, who taught the Velothi at the beginning of days all the arts of sex and murder. Its burning heart melted the eyes of the Nechiman's wife and took the egg from her belly with 6 cutting strokes. The egg image, however, could see into what it had been before in ancient times, when the earth still cooled and was not blinded. It joined with the Daedroth and took its former secrets, leaving a few behind to keep the web of the world from disentangling. Then the Black Hand's Mephala put the egg back into the Nechiman's wife and blew on her with magic breath until the hole closed up. But the Daedroth did not give her back her eyes, saying, God hath 3 keys, of birth, of machines, and of the words between. Within this sermon the wise may find 1/2 of these keys. The ending of the words is Alm Sivi. Sermon 3. Being blind, the Nechiman's wife wandered into a cave on her way to the domains of House Indoril. It so happened that this cave was a Dwemeri stronghold. The Dwemer spied the egg and captured the Nechiman's wife. They bound her head to foot and brought her deep within the earth. She heard one say, Go and make a simulacrum of her and place it back on the surface, for she has something akin to what we have, and so the Velothi will covet it and notice if she is too long away. In the darkness, the Nechiman's wife felt great knives try to cut her open. When the knives did not work, the Dwemer used solid sounds. When those did not work, great heat was brought to bear. Nothing was of any use, and the egg of Vivec remained safe within her. A Dwemer said, Nothing is of any use. We must go and misinterpret this. Vivec felt that his mother was afraid, and so consoled her. The fire is mine, let it consume thee, and make a secret door at the altar of Padhom, in the house of Boet Hiah, where we become safe and looked after. This old prayer made the Nechiman's wife smile, and begin such a deep sleep that when Dwemeri Atronachs returned with cornered spheres and cut her apart, she did not awake and died peacefully. Vivec was removed from her womb and placed within a magical glass for further study. To confound his captors, he channeled his essence into love, an emotion the Dwemer knew nothing about. The egg said, Love is used not only as a constituent in moods and affairs, but also as the raw material from which relationships produce our later exasperations, regrettably fashioned restrictions, riddles laced with affections known only to the loving couple, and looks that linger too long. Love is also an often used ingredient in some transparent verbal and non-verbal transactions, where eventually it can sometimes be converted to a variety of true devotions, some of which yield tough, insoluble, and infusible unions. In its basic form, love supplies approximately 13 drafts of all energy that is derived from relationships. Its role and value in society at large are controversial. The Dwemer were vexed at these words and tried to hide behind their power symbols. They sent their Atronachs to remove the egg image from their cave and place it within the simulacrum they had made of Vivec's mother. A Dwemer said, We Dwemer are only aspirants to this that the Velothi have. They shall be our doom in this and the 8 known worlds, Nirn, Elchkan, Arket, Thender, Kainert, Akat, Mahara, and Junal. The secret to doom is within this sermon. The ending of the words is Alm Sivi. Sermon 4. The simulacrum of the Nechiman's wife, who carried the egg of Vivec within it, went back to looking for the lands of the Indoril. Along the journey, many more spirits came to see it and offer instructions to its son-daughter, the future glorious invisible warrior poet of Vardenfell, Vivec. A troop of spirits called the Lobbyists for the Coincidence Guild appeared. Vivec understood the challenge immediately and said, The popular notion of God kills happenstance. The head of the Lobbyists, whose name is forgotten, tried to defend the concept's existence. He said, Saying something at the same time can be magical. Vivec knew that to retain his divinity, that he must make a strong argument against luck. He said, Is not the sudden revelation of corresponding conditions and disparate elements that gel at the moment of the coincidence one of the prerequisites to being in fact coincidental? Synchronicity comes out of repeated coincidences at the lowest level. Further examination shows it is the utter power of the sheer number of coincidences that leads one to the idea that synchronicity is guided by something more than chance. Therefore, synchronicity ends up invalidating the concept of the coincidental, even though they are the symptomatic signs that bring it to the surface. Thus was coincidence destroyed in the land of the Velothi. Then an old bone of the earth rose up before the simulacrum of the Nechiman's wife and said, "If you are to be born a ruling king of the world, you must confuse it with new words. Set me into pondering." "Very well," Vivec said. "Let me talk to you of the world which I share with mystery and love. Who is her capital? Have you taken the scenic route of her cameo?" "I have, lightly in secret, missing candles because they're on the untrue side, and run my hand along the edge of a shadow made from 103 divisions of warmth, and left no proof." At this, the old bone folded unto itself 20 times until it became akin to milk, which Vivec drank, becoming a ruling king of the world. Finally, the Chancellor of Exactitude appeared, and he was perfect to look upon from every angle. Vivec understood the challenge immediately and said, "Certitude is for the puzzle box logicians and girls of white glamour who harbor it on their own time. I am a letter written in uncertainty." The Chancellor bowed his head and smiled 50 different and perfect ways all at once. He pulled the astrolabe of the universe from his robe and broke it in half, handing both halves to the egg image of Vivec. Vivec laughed and said, "Yes, I know. The slave labor of the senses is as selfish as polar ice, and worsens when energies are spent on a life others regard as fortunate. To be a ruling king, I will have to suffer much that cannot be suffered, and to weigh matters that no astrolabe or compass can measure." The ending of the words is Alm Sivi. Sermon 5. Finally, the simulacrum of the Nechiman's wife became unstable. The Dwemer in their haste had built it shoddily, and the ashes of Red Mountain slowed its golden tendons. Before long it fell on its knees beside the road to the lands of the Indoril and pitched over, to be discovered 80 days later by a merchant caravan on its way to the capital of Veloth, anon Almalexia. Vivec had not been among his people all the days of his pre-life, so he stayed silent and let the chimer in the caravan think that the simulacrum was broken and empty. A Chimeri warrior who was protecting the caravan said, "Look here how the Dwemer try to fool us as ever, crafting our likenesses out of their flesh metals. We should take this to the capital and show our mother Im. She will want to see this new strategy of our enemies." But the merchant captain said, "I doubt that we shall be paid well for the effort. We can make more money if we stop at Normok and sell it to the Red Wives of Dagon, who pay well for the wonders made by the deep folk." But another chimer, who was wise in the ways of prophecy, looked on the simulacrum with disquietude. "Was I not hired on to help you seek the best of fortunes? I say you should listen to your warrior then, and take this thing to Im. For though manufactured by our enemies, there is something in it that will become sacred, or has been already." The merchant captain took pause then, and looked on the simulacrum of the Nechiman's wife, and though he heeded always the advice of his seers, could do no more than think of the profits to be made at Normok. He thought mainly of the Red Wives' form of recompense, which was four-cornered and good-wounded, a belly magic known nowhere else under the moons. His lust made him deny Im his mother. He gave order to change course for Normok. Before the caravan could get underway again, the Chimeri warrior who had counselled a passage to the capital threw his money to the merchant captain and said, "I will pay you thus for the simulacrum and warn you, war is coming with the shaggy men of the north, and I will not have my mother Im at uneven odds with one enemy while tending to another." "Nerevar," the merchant captain said, "this is not enough. I am triune in my own way, but I follow the road of my body and demand more." Then Vivec could not remain silent anymore and said into Nerevar's head these words, "You can hear the words, so run away. Come, Hortata, unfold into a clear unknown. Stay quiet until you've slept in the yesterday, and say no elegies for the melting stone." So Nerevar slew the merchant captain and took the caravan for his own. The ending of the words is Alm Sivi. Sermon 6. You have discovered the 6th sermon of Vivec, which was hidden in the words that came next to the Hortata. There is an eon within itself that when unraveled becomes the first sentence of the world. Mephala and Azura are the twin gates of tradition, and Boethia is the secret flame. The sun shall be eaten by lions, which cannot be found yet in Veloth. 6 are the vests and garments worn by the suppositions of men. Proceed only with the simplest terms, for all others are enemies, and will confuse you. 6 are the formulas to heaven by violence, one that you have learned by studying these words. The Father is a machine in the mouth of a machine. His only mystery is an invitation to elaborate further. The Mother is active and clawed like a nixhound, yet she is the holiest of those that reclaim their days. The Son is myself, Vec, and I am unto 3, 6, 9, and the rest that come after, glorious and sympathetic without borders, utmost in the perfections of this world and the others, sword and symbol, pale like gold. There is a 4th kind of philosophy that uses nothing but disbelief. For by the sword I mean the sensible, for by the word I mean the dead. I am Vec, your protector and the protector of Red Mountain until the end of days, which are numbered 3,333. Below me is the savage, which we needed to remove ourselves from the Ultima. Above me is a challenge, which bathes itself in fire and the essence of a god. Through me you are desired, unlike the prophets that have borne your name before. 6 are the walking ways, from enigma to enemy to teacher. Boethia and Azura are the principles of the universal plot, which is begetting, which is creation, and Mephala makes of it an art form. For by the sword I mean the first night, for by the word I mean the dead. There will be a splendor in your name when it is said to be true. 6 are the guardians of Veloth, 3 before, and they are born again, and they will test you until you have the proper tendencies of the hero. There is a world that is sleeping, and you must guard against it. For by the sword I mean the dual nature, for by the word I mean animal life, for by the sword I mean preceded by a sigh, for by the word I mean preceded by a wolf. The ending of the words is Almsivi. Sermon 7. As the caravan of Nerevar now made for the capital of Veloth, Anon Almalexia, there came great rumblings from the oblivion. A duke among scamps wandered into the house of troubles, pausing before each scripture door to pay his respects, until finally he was met by the major domo of Mehrunes Dagon. The Duke of Scamps said, "I was summoned by Lord Dagon, master of the foul waters and fire, and I have brought the penance of my 7 legions." The major domo, whose head was a bubble of foul water and fire, bowed low, so that the head of the Duke of Scamps became enclosed in his own. He saw the first pennant, which commanded a legion of grim warriors who could die at least twice. He saw the second pennant, which commanded a legion of winged bulls and the Emperor of Colour that rode upon each. He saw the third pennant, which commanded a legion of inverted gorgons, great snakes whose scales were the faces of men. He saw the 4th pennant, which commanded a legion of double-crossed lovers. He saw the 5th pennant, which commanded a legion of jumping wounds looking to hop onto a victim. He saw the 6th pennant, which commanded a legion of abridged planets. He saw the 7th pennant, which commanded a legion of armored winning moves. To which the major domo said, "Duke Keuta, your legions, while mighty, are not enough to destroy Nerevar or the Triune Way. Look upon the Hortator and see the wisdom he takes to wife." And they looked into the middle world and saw, evaporating in a throng of thunder of red war and chitin men, where destines take him further from our ways, the heat that we have wanted and pray they still remember, where destines clothe the distance, glad in the golden east that we saw it now, instead of the war and repair of the oblivious fracture. A curse on the Hortator, and 2 more on his hands, and the Duke of Scamps saw the palms of the Hortator, upon which the egg had written these words of power. Gartok Padhome, Gartok Padhome. The ending of the words is Almsivi. Sermon 8. And presently Nerevar and Vivec were within sight of the capital, and the 4 corners of the House of Troubles knew that it was not time to contest them. The caravan musicians made a great song of entrance, and the 11 gates of the mourning hold were thrown wide. Iam was accompanied by her husband's state, a flickering image that was channeled to her ever-changing female need. Around her were the shouts, a guild now forgotten, who carried with them the whims of the people, for the Velothi then were still mostly good at heart. The shouts were the councillors of Iam and the country, though they sometimes quarreled and needed Set to ring them into usefulness. Ayem approached Nerevar, who was by now adorned in the flags of House Indoro. He gifted her with the simulacrum of the Nechiman's wife and the egg of Vivec inside. Ayem said to Nerevar, Set, who is Azura, has revealed that war is come, and that the Hortata that shall deliver us will approach with a solution walking at his side. Nerevar said, I have travelled out of my way to warn you of the deceit of our enemies, the Dwemer, but I have learned much on the journey and have changed my mind. This Nechiman's wife you see at my side is a sword and a symbol, and there is prophecy inside. It tells me that, like it, we must for a while be like he is, and as a people cloaked in our former enemies, and to use their machines without shame. At which Vivec spoke aloud. Boethia, who is you, wore the skin of Trinimac to cleanse the faults of Veloth, my queen, and so it should be again. This is the walking way of the glorious. Set appeared out of a cloud of iron vapor, and his minions made of their blood a chair. He sat beside Ayem and looked on the rebirth of mastery. Vivec said to them, his triune, My rituals and ordeals and all the rhymes within use no other motive than the revelation of my skin. Ayem said, Ayem Aeseti Aevek. We are delivered and made whole. The diamond of the black hands is uncovered. Set said, Wherever so he treads there is invisible scripture. To which the shouts were silent in sudden reading. Vivec then reached out from the egg all his limbs and features, merging with the simulacrum of his mother, gilled and blended in all the arts of the star-wounded East, underwater and in fire and in metal and in ash, 6 times the wise, and he became the union of male and female, the magic hermaphrodite, the martial axiom, the sex death of language, and unique in all the middle world. He said, Let us now guide the hands of the Hortata in war and its aftermath, for we go different and in thunder. This is our destiny. The ending of the words is Alm Sivi.
Sermon 9. Then came the war with the northern men, where Vivec did guide the Hortata into swift and tricky union with the Dwemer. The greatest demon chieftains of the frigid west were those listed below, 5 in unholy number. Hoaga, the mouth of mud, who appeared as a great bearded king, had the powers of marshalling and breathing the earth. On the battlefields this demon would often be seen on the sidelines, eating the soil voraciously. When his men fell, Hoaga would fill their bodies back with it, whereupon they would rise again and fight, albeit slower. He had a secret name, Fenja, and destroyed 17 Chimeri villages and 2 Dwemeri strongholds before being turned away. Chemua, the running hunger, who appeared as a mounted soldier with full helm, had the powers of heart roaring and of sky sickening. He ate the Chimeri hero, Dres Kizumete, sending the spirit back to the Hortata as an assassin. Sometimes called First Blighter, Chemua could give clouds stomach aches and turn the reign of Veloth into bile. He destroyed 6 Chimeri villages before he was slain by Vivec and the Hortata. Bahag, the two-tongued, who appeared as a great bearded king, had the powers of surety and form change. His raiders were small in number, but ran amok in the west hinterlands, killing many Velothi trappers and scouts. He fell in a great debate with Vivec, for the warrior poet alone could understand the northern man's 2-layered speech, though Alm Sivi had to remain invisible during the argument. Barfok, maid of plains, who appeared as a winged human with lick-encrusted spear, had the powers of event denouement. Battles fought against her would always end in victory for Barfok, because she could shape outcomes by singing. 4 Chimeri villages and 2 more Dwemeri strongholds were destroyed by her decision enforcement. Vivec had to stuff her mouth with his milk finger to keep her from singing Veloth into ruin. Icemere, the dragon of the north, who always appears as a great bearded king, had powers innumerable and echoing. He was grim, dark, and the most silent of the invading chieftains, though when he spoke villages were uplifted and thrown into the sea. The Hortata fought him unarmed, grabbing the dragon's roars by hand until Ismir's power throat bled. These roars were given to Vivec to bind into an ebony listening frame, which the warrior poet placed on Ismir's face and ears to drive him mad and drive him away. The coming forth and the driving away brings all things around.
What I shall say next is unpleasant to record. Herma mora altadun, altadun. The ending of the words is almsivi.
Sermon 10. You have discovered the 10th sermon of Vivec, which was hidden in the words that came in the aftermath to the hortator. The evoker shall raise his left hand empty and open, to indicate he needs no weapons of his own. The coming forth is always hidden, so the evoker is always invisible, or better, in the skin of his enemies. The eyelid of the kingdom shall fill 36 folios, but the eye shall read the world. By this the hortator needs me to understand. The sword is an impatient signature. Write no contracts on the dead. Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Boetia. We pledge ourselves to you, the frame maker, the scarab. A world for us to love you in, a cloak of dirt to cherish. Betrayed by your ancestors when you were not even looking. Hoary Magnus and his ventured opinions cannot sway the understated. A trick worthy of the always satisfied. A short season of towers, a rundown absolution, and what is this but fire under your eyelid? Shift ye in your skin, I say to the Trinimac eaters, pitch your voices into the colour of bruise, divide ye like your enemies in houses, and lay your laws in set sequence from the centre, again like the enemy corners of the house of troubles, and see yourself thence as timber, or mud slats, or sheets of resin. Then do not divide, for yet is the stride of Sithisit quicker than the rush of enemies, and he will sunder the whole for the sake of a shingle, for we go different, and in thunder. Sithisit is the start of all true houses, built against stasis and lazy slaves. Turn from your predilections, broken like false maps, move and move like this. Quicken against false fathers, mothers left in corners weeping for glass and rain. Stasis asks merely for nothing, for itself which is nothing, as you were in the 8 everlasting imperfections. Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Vivec. Understand that Sithisit still travels. Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Vivec, in a phosphorescent mirror of the sky. Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Vivec, drowned and smiling. Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Vivec. Intermittent hopes enough. Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Vivec. To answer all the things Vivec says unto the hortator, remember the words of Vivec, not yet queried. The ending of the words is Amsivi.
Sermon 11. These were the days of Resdania, when Keimer and Dwemer lived under the wise and benevolent rule of the Almsivi and their champion the hortator. When the gods of Veloth would retreat unto their own to mould the cosmos and other matters, the hortator would at times become confused. Vivec would always be there to advise him, and this is the first of the 3 lessons of ruling kings. The waking world is the amnesia of dream. All motifs can be mortally wounded. Once slain, themes turn into the structure of future nostalgia. Do not abuse your powers, or they will lead you astray. They will leave you like rebellious daughters. They will lose their virtue. They will become lost and resentful, and finally become pregnant with the seed of folly. Soon you will be the grandparent of a broken state. You will be mocked. It will fall apart like a stone that recalls that it is really water. Keep nothing in your house that is neither needed or beautiful. Ordeals you should face unimpeded by the world of restriction. The splendor of stars is Ayem's domain. The selfishness of the sea is Set's. I rule the middle air. All else is earth and under your temporal command. There is no bone that cannot be broken, except for the heart bone. You will see it twice in your lifetimes. Take what you can the first time and let us do the rest. There is no true symbolism of the center. The Shamat will believe there is. He will feel that he can cause years of exuberance from sitting in the sacred, when really no one can leave that state and cause anything more but strife. There is once more the case of the symbolic and barren. The true prince that is cursed and demonized will be adored at last with full hearts. According to the codes of Mephala, there can be no official art, only fixation points of complexity that will erase from the awe of the people given enough time. This is a secret that hides another. An impersonal survival is not the way of the ruling king. Embrace the art of the people and marry it, and by that I mean secretly have it murdered. The ruling king that sees in another his equivalent rules nothing. The secret of weapons is this. They are the mercy seat. The secret of language is this. It is immobile.
The ruling king is armored head to toe in brilliant flame. He is redeemed by each act he undertakes. His death is only a diagram back to the waking world. He sleeps the second way. The Sharmat is his double, and therefore you wonder if you rule nothing. Hortator and Sharmat, 1 and 1, 11, an inelegant number. Which of the ones is the more important? Could you ever tell if they switched places? I can, and that is why you will need me. According to the codes of Mephala, there is no difference between the theorist and the terrorist. Even the most cherished desire disappears in their hands. This is why Mephala has black hands. Bring both of yours to every argument. The one-handed king finds no remedy. When you approach God, however, cut both of them off. God has no need of theory, and he is armored head to toe in terror. The ending of the words is Sivi.
Sermon 12. As the Hortator pondered the first lesson of ruling kings, Vivec wandered into the mourning hold and found that Im was with a pair of lovers. Set had divided himself again. Vivec then leapt through into their likenesses to observe, but he gained no secrets that he did not already know. He left a few of his own behind to make the journey worthwhile. Then Vivec left the capital of Veloth and wandered far into the ash. He found a span of badlands to practice his giant form. He made of his feet a less dense material than the divine to keep from falling waist deep into the earth. At this point, the first corner of the House of Troubles, the Prince Molag Bal, made his presence known. Vivec looked on the King of Rape and said, "How very beautiful you are that you do not join us." And Molag Bal crushed the warrior poet's feet, which were not invulnerable, and had legions cleave them off. Mighty fires from the beginning place were brought like nets to hold Vivec, and he let them. "I would prefer," he said, "some kind of ceremony if we are to be married." And the legions that took the feet were summoned again and ordered to begin a banquet. Pomegranates sprang from the badlands and tents were raised. A throng of Velothi mystics came, reading the passages of the severed feet on the ground and weeping until the scriptures were wet. "We must love each other briefly," Vivec said, "if at all. I am needed to counsel the Hortator in more important matters because the Dwemeri high priests stir up trouble. You may have my head for an hour." Molag Bal rose up and extended 6 arms to show his worth. They were decorated in runes of seduction and its reverse. They were decorated in the annotated calendars of longer worlds. When he spoke, mating monsters fell out. "Where must it go?" he said. "I told you," Vivec said. "I am meant to be the teacher of the King of the Earth, Ae Altadun Gartok Padhom." With these magic words, the King of Rape added another, Chim, which is the secret syllable of royalty. Vivec had what he needed from the Daedroth and so married him that day. In the hour that Baal had his head, the King of Rape asked for proof of love. Vivec spoke 2 poems to show him such, but only the first is known. "I'm not sure just how much glass it took to make your hair twice as much, I am sure, as the oceans have to share hell, my sweet, is a fiction written by those who tell the truth. My mouth is skilled at lying, and its alibi a tooth. The sons and daughters of Vivec and Molag Bal number in the thousands. The name of the mightiest is a string of power, Gulgamor Jil Hayet Ehum. The ending of the words is Sivi.